What's up, troopers? Let's break this on down. 4 common weight loss mistakes that are sabotaging your progress. And if you are new to this channel, my name is Paul Clingan. And over the last 7 years, I've helped over 500 people as a trainer nutrition coach. And over the last couple years, I've specialized in really gamifying the process for Star Wars nerds, using Star Wars themed workouts on my channel. And it's helped tens of thousands of people all across the world by making an alter ego that people can follow along with. And then the people that I've worked with over the last couple years, specifically at Fit for the Republic, have all changed their life using the approaches that I've learned over the last 7 years as a Division I athlete, well over 6 figures in education, and just applying this myself. So that is where this is coming from. This is not just theory. This is things that I've seen work for people at 300 pounds, work for people at 200 pounds. So let's go over the first one. And this is going to be chock full of honestly more than 4. This is just 4 pillars. And then we're going to dive a little bit deeper into it. So if you got something to take notes with, pause this video right now, get that notepad out. So first one, and these are all going to be broken into training, nutrition, recovery, and mindset. So there's going to be kind of the 4 main pillars, and there's going to be really a common theme within each one. Then I'll give specific themes within each of those. So first one on nutrition, not having data. If you do not have something that you are tracking, ideally tracking macros is going to be the most effective way of understanding what your micronutrients are, what your macronutrients are, what your calorie intake is, and then doing that accurately. We'll get to that in a second, but at least track your key performance indicators. That could be how often are you having a protein shake? How often are you having half of your plate as a certain type of macro or a certain type of food? The more you can create data around your nutrition, the less emotional that you will be. And that is the biggest thing that holds people back. They get really emotional about their nutrition. They say, I feel like I'm not eating a lot, or I feel like I'm eating healthy. Or you'll see people say things like, oh, I can't have that. That's not healthy. Or that food is bad, as if bananas are out clubbing baby seals and, chocolate is robbing the bank. Yes, they are carbs. There are carbs in bananas, but carbs aren't evil. But what can happen a lot of times when you're not tracking numbers is it's really easy to get wrapped up in a story. And then that story, beyond just having a piece of cake, is everything else that is the emotions attached to that. The more you have data, the more you can look at numbers. Numbers are unemotional. And that's where you can really start to create a much better relationship with food. And I would say with this as well, create a situation where your intuition can actually be accurate, because your intuition is your subconscious pattern recognition system. And if you're 30, 40, 50 pounds overweight, your intuition is not aligned. So the more you can get data that you look at and you see, that will align your intuition to actually be aligned with reality. But if I didn't look at my bank account for 6 months, some people don't weigh themselves for 6 months, it's really easy to have things get out of control. So the more numbers you have, the easier it is going to be to keep tabs on it. And this is actually a really big thing when people talk about needing accountability or wanting accountability. The root word of accountability is account. What does an accountant do? They've got numbers. They work with numbers every single day. And so one of the best forms of accountability is numbers, is data. Yes, having your buddy meet you at the gym is awesome, but you could do that for the entire year, not see any progress. You could get negative progress. I could go to my gym with a buddy every single day and gain 50 pounds if my numbers aren't where they need to be. You also don't need someone if your numbers are where they need to be. And so a lot of times people will say, but I don't know how to track. It's really hard. Think of it as a skill, same as bench press or squat or learning how to type or merging onto the freeway or ordering a beer at the bar. Everything you started for the first time, you were not good at until you put reps in. A lot of people on this channel are going to play video games. You're probably more confident at the video games you play a lot. You probably weren't as confident your first time logging into Halo, but as you threw some sticky grenades and logged hundreds of hours, you got better, you got more confident. So when your buddies are like, yo, let's play Blood Gulch, you're like, dude, I got this. Game in the bag, easy. If you want to get better at something, you've got to get experience with it. Experience outranks everything, as Captain Rex says. So first mistake is not having data around your nutrition. You're just winging it. You're going off of feelings. You don't have the force. Your feelings are not something to listen to. Obviously, there's another side of the coin where, yeah, your intuition is something to be aware of if there's stranger danger. But when it comes to nutrition, when it comes to the food you're eating, the more numbers you can get around it, the better you're going to be. So then the next one is not strength training. And you'd be surprised how many people aren't doing this. And then if they are doing this, they aren't doing it to the degree to which they want to be getting the results that they're after. Let me unpack that a little bit. So, number one thing that I see a lot is people will just do a random diet. They'll do keto, carnivore, whatever, and they'll just do a bunch of cardio. Maybe they walk a ton, maybe they do a bunch of running, cycling, whatever that is, but they're not strength training. And the reason, there's a lot of reasons why strength training is really important. But one of the things that you'll see as a result of this is people lose a bunch of weight, but then the body composition that they want isn't there. They lost the 60 pounds, but then they look and feel kind of like a melted candle where they don't have the toned muscle, the defined muscle, the muscle definition, whatever language or lingo you want to use. They don't have that because they never gave their muscle and their body a stimulus to grow and build muscle. And this one actually is kind of attached to nutrition because if your protein doesn't take where you need it to be, well, then there's nothing for your body to have as a building block. That's an aside, actually an important aside, but that is an aside. The big thing with strength training is that it is going to give you the ability to build muscle. That is going to be something that is important, especially for guys over 30 and women, because it's like a 401k in your retirement, where once it gets to a certain point from an age standpoint, just like your 401k, that's what you're living off of. So you build up a bunch of muscle in your 20s and in your 30s, and then your hormones start to change and your muscle tissue is going to start to wean off as well. If your nutrition and your training are on point, you can make that as minimal of a loss as possible. But if you're not strength training, there's no reason for your body to maintain that muscle because there's no stimulus and stress saying, hey, maintain this muscle. Muscle's hard on the body to hold on to. That's why when you go and just lose 50 pounds of just being in a calorie deficit, hardly eating, and not strength training, the body's going to break down some of that muscle tissue for energy because it's in that calorie deficit. It needs either fat, muscle tissue, or blood glucose. So, big thing with this as well, when we look at hormonal issues, insulin sensitivity, the ability to handle and process carbs, it's I can't remember the specific numbers off the top of my head, but I think 1 in 3 people who are normal weight are pre-diabetic. I can drop the numbers down in the description, but the big thing here is that a lot of people have metabolic syndrome and they have metabolic issues despite being skinny. And one of the big things there is that their nutrition isn't where they need to be. They're not strength training. Their insulin sensitivity then becomes diminished because their body's ability to go and process and handle excess carbohydrates is diminished. They have a harder time doing that because they don't have as much muscle. Strength training is going to help with insulin sensitivity. And so by doing that, you enable yourself to have better internal and holistic health. And then when we look at the function side of things, when I'm 80 years old, I want to be able to get off the toilet. If you got little tiny skinny droid legs, you're going to have a hard time getting off the toilet. A lot of people want to go hiking. A lot of people want to play with their kids. A lot of people want to do their job to the best of their ability as a service member or firefighter or someone that's in the military. You got to be able to have the strength and the muscle to be able to do those things. And that requires strength training. Now, some of you might be watching this, well, duh, I got to strength train. Again, most people don't. But if you are, a really big important thing with this as well is how are you strength training? Are you tracking your numbers? This is getting back to the data piece. You got to make sure that you have numbers around it so that you know you are progressing. And there's going to be a pillar next to this after recovery that will also be a key point in this. But you've got to have numbers and data around it so that you can have progressive overload. You've got to have a system. You've got to have a structure with your strength training. If you're just going in the gym, pissing in the wind, one of the things is it's going to diminish your motivation because you're not seeing yourself progress. It's going to create a lot of decision fatigue because you're looking at the gym wondering, which equipment should I do today? And the more decisions you have to make, the lower the action threshold, or the lower the action that you'll take is the higher the action threshold. And I'd say a really big important piece about strength training as well is just movement quality and being able to express your body, your joints in as many different angles as possible under load. That's how you're going to be able to avoid injury. And that gets into the third pillar, no recovery. And if you don't have a recovery system in place, that's how you get burnout. That's how you get injured. First one that I see a lot of times is really poor sleep quality. Whether you are staying up late playing video games, whether you are a new dad like me, I'm a new dad, so my sleep isn't great. So my training intensity needs to match that. You can train as hard as you want. A lot of people look at Chris Hemsworth, The Rock, professional athletes and say, I want to train like that. It's like, okay, cool. Are you going to invest in your health like that and get a recovery team and a sauna and a massage and a chiropractor and make sure that you're sleeping 12 hours a day and make sure that your nutrition's on point? Because you can only train as hard as you can recover from. If you're not recovering from it, I don't care how hard you're training. If you can't show up the next day because you're burnt out, you're not worth a darn. And the best ability when it comes to fitness and staying consistent is availability. I'll say that again. If you smash yourself so hard in the gym that the next day you can't get to the gym, it doesn't matter how hard you went in the gym the day prior. And one of the biggest things that's going to help you recover is your sleep. If your sleep is not on point, you are going to struggle to build muscle. You're going to struggle to retain muscle. You're going to struggle to get into a good circadian rhythm. The next day, you're going to wake up tired, groggy, unmotivated. And it all started with what you did the night before. Charge your phone away from your nightstand so that you're not doom scrolling in the middle of the night. Set a timer for when you turn off screens and try and get into a good routine where you wind down your central nervous system. You unstress. That would be reading, meditation, get the room dark. There's so many different tips inside of that. It's beyond the scope of this. But if your sleep is not on point, you know it. And if you're sitting there saying, oh, I only sleep 3 hours a night and I don't feel that bad. To be honest, you're probably just used to feeling like trash. You can feel much better. Go spend the night in one of the nicest hotels you've ever been in, sleep in one of those fluffy beds, as dark as it gets, as cold as it gets, and tell me you don't feel amazing. That's how you can feel every single day, or at least aspire to. Really good thing to track that. It's going to be an Aura ring and going to be one of those things that, sorry, Mac had a good point here. Muscle soreness from a workout. If you can't show up the next day, like I said, you should feel the muscles that you are using, right? If I do lower posterior, glutes, hamstrings, I'm going to feel those muscles the next day, but it shouldn't be so much that you absolutely destroyed yourself and you can't show up the next day. That's how you get injured. What I was saying though is with sleep, go have an amazing night of sleep. You're going to notice how much better you can feel. And that's what you should be chasing. And if you have something like an Aura ring or a Whoop band, some different watches will track this as well. You can actually track your recovery score. And if you're someone that constantly feels burnt out, drained, nutrition, it's kind of a key theme in this, but nutrition is going to impact your energy because that is literally a unit of energy. That's what calories are. But your energy that you feel each day is coming from your training, it's coming from your sleep, and it's coming from your nutrition. So if your cells don't have the nutrients that they need, it is going to make it harder for you to have energy. If you're constantly having big blood sugar spikes because you're going and having a pint of ice cream and then not eating for 6 hours, energy is going to dip. If you're not working out, you don't have the mitochondria sitting in there creating more energy from working out. So you're not going to have energy. And then if you don't sleep, you're not going to have energy. If I don't charge my phone at night, it's going to wake up the next day, or I'm going to wake up the next day and it's not going to have energy. Side note, this is a photo I actually took of a Cad Bane action figure. Pretty proud of it. So totally a random tangent there. But yeah, got to go to bed. So that's one. Another one that I see a lot of times too is lack of focus on recovery, stretching, warming up, and that's what leads to injury, where you just hammer. You hammer your joints. You don't stretch. You don't create the mobility in the joints. You don't choose exercises that are a little bit easier on the mobility that you do have. You don't stretch. You don't do the different active recovery modalities. There's so many different ones, but just trying to show up to the gym, max squat, or just go on the treadmill and just start sprinting without warming up, without cooling down, it's just a matter of time before something doesn't work the way that it should. And that's a great way to run into a plateau because you can't go to the gym. Now you're not motivated. Now you find yourself back at square one 6 weeks later. Last one here is just a lack of adaptability. And a lot of people will start at the beginning of the year, or really whenever they start a fitness journey. They'll get a templated plan. They've got their plan and they're like, this is the plan. Hell, rain or shine, I'm going to go and just hammer it. And it works until life punches them in the nuts. A literal or metaphorical hurricane blows through their life and they aren't able to respond and adapt to the stress of that training plan or that big calorie deficit that they're in. And so you got to have some adaptability. One of my favorite sayings I've ever heard from mentors is that methods are many, principles are few. Methods may change, principles rarely do. Principle, calorie deficit. Principle, progressive overload. Principle, go to bed. Methods, Intermittent fasting. Are we doing a Mediterranean diet? Are you tracking macros? Are you just tracking protein intake by writing it in a journal, right? Those are different methods. Are you powerlifting? Are you doing more bodybuilding? Are you doing a 4-day split? Are you doing a 5-day split? Methods at that point to get to the principle of the stimulus that your muscle needs to grow. So, not being adaptable to your plan is really a form of a lack of recovery. And that is a great way to burn yourself out because you just get married to it needs to look like this. It has to be perfect this way. And that's just not realistic. The most successful people in the fitness space, Arnold Schwarzenegger, C-Bum, professional athletes, they have not been perfect. I don't know if anyone has. If they have, they're a droid, and you should kind of be worried because Tesla's taken over. Don't be so attached to what it is supposed to look like. Be adaptable in how you get there. Last one, I would say no community. And there's a few different ways you can think about this. One, it's the people you surround yourself with, and more importantly, compare yourself to. You can surround yourself with people that inspire you to go to the gym, inspire you to eat healthy, or you can hang out with people that make fun of you because you're not having the beer or because you want to wake up early and go to bed instead of staying up. And that might seem benign, but there's actually a really interesting metaphor here from crab fishing. I saw this in a video. I don't know if it's actually true, but I'm pretty sure it is. I've never crab fished either. But he was talking about how you don't put a lid on a crab pot because any crabs that try to escape get pulled down by the other crabs. And many of you have other crabs that are pulling you down as you try to escape. And so you really got to make sure that you are auditing your environment because when people talk about mindset, right? Let's just break this down for a second. People say, hey, you got to change your mindset. Okay. Like, is that a t-shirt? Do I grab a mindset shirt, take this one off and put it on? No. Your mindset is essentially your information diet that you have taken in from your eyes, from your ears, and how you have perceived the world based on your habits. And that all started at a very young age. So really your family is your first community. And for a lot of you guys watching this, you're going to say, oh, I'm big boned. I've just kind of been overweight my whole life. I'm going to guess that your parents at some point or currently are overweight. And growing up, you were introduced to habits around food that led to them struggling with their health. And now you are running into that as well. So a lot of times it's not that you're big boned, it's that you picked up the habits from someone else that was big boned. But if you changed your habits and your beliefs from the community, the people you spend time with, you'd get a different result. Now, there are hereditary things, absolutely, but there are people who have hereditary diseases that are able to change their habits and still overcome the obstacles that they can't control. But you got to ask yourself, are you controlling the things you can control? And the things you can control is who and what you surround yourself with. So podcasts, books, movies, YouTube videos, social media, all of these are different things that the brain perceives and takes in. And those are beliefs. Those are values. Those are things that if you watch a video and the person is talking about hard work and you see that every single time you scroll through social media, you're going to start to value that more. Versus if you only follow, let's just say you only follow Budweiser and it's like the Clydesdales and the dogs, and every single day is an ad for how relaxing it's going to feel to sit at the bar with your buddies and just slam Budweisers, you're going to say, oh, I don't want a Budweiser. That's what advertising does. It creates a desire for you to do something. So you got to be really aware of what the system that you're in is subconsciously programming. And that comes from what you put into your eyes, what you put into your ears. And so when it coming back around and land this, when you want to change your mindset, you got to change your thoughts. If you want to change your thoughts, you got to change what's coming in. But I would also say too, you just got to audit kind of how you're thinking. So when you struggle with things like consistency, ask yourself, who can I compare myself to that is consistent? And how would they act in this situation? And this gets into the alter ego, which is what I talk about a lot on this channel, where there's a version of you, a superhero version inside of you that doesn't sit on the couch, eat Hot Pockets with, the cheese dribbling down your chin, saying, I don't have any time, I don't have any energy, as you watch your 8th episode of Dexter. So there's a version of you that's like your Darth Vader version. Then there's the version of you that's like, all right, I'm going to be disciplined. I'm going to be consistent because that's who I want to be, or that's what Captain Rex would do, or that's what this person that I'm comparing myself would do. And humans are very tribal. Humans want to fit in with the tribe. If you are in a tribe of people that don't value exercise, don't value nutrition, then you're not going to value it, because you're going to look around and you're going to say, I'm not doing too bad. My belly's only 50 inches. His belly's 55. So relatively, I'm not that bad. But if you bunked and lived in a cabin with only Olympic athletes for the next year, your life would completely change, because you would see how they operate. You would be the one standing out and you'd be like, man, I kind of want to get in line with what they're doing. I'm not saying you need to do that, but try and surround yourself with people who hold a higher standard. You will hold a higher standard as well. And, this gets into motivation. I think a lot of times motivation comes down to a lack of a clear path to follow. The workouts on this channel, if you check out this right here, I'm going to flip over here real quick. One of the things that impacts motivation is having way too many decisions to make and not knowing what to do. The reason why I created Star Wars themed workouts in a helmet is, one, to make it more accessible for people who maybe don't see themselves as a gym rat and they want to make it fun. But two, anyone can do a 10-minute body weight workout, and I'm doing it in a helmet. So I literally know you can as well. And when you have that very clear plan to follow, that lowers the action threshold, that lowers that fence that you got to climb over. And when you don't have a ton of motivation, that fence is really high. And when you got a bunch of decision to make, that fence is really high and your motivation is really low. And so getting inside of a community of people that hold a higher standard is going to help you a ton. Getting inside of the community that I've got from a Fit Nerd Academy standpoint, the clients that I privately work with, that's going to give you a nerdy community doing Star Wars workouts of people who have lost 50, 60, 70 pounds or PR'd a number of different events, marathons, bench lifting, whatever. That gives you a sense of community if people are pushing it. I've got a free community as well if you want to check that out down in the description. But surrounding yourself with people who think differently will cause you to think differently. Last one here. If you struggle with discipline, that's why there's coaches. Right? If there's two ways to think about this from a fitness standpoint, if you don't have the results that you want, you either lack knowledge, at which point having someone shorten the learning curve would save you a ton of time, a ton of money, and get you the results sooner. Time is money. It's the one resource we can't get back. Two, you might say, yeah, I know I need to eat healthy. I just need accountability. Well, at that point, what we're looking at here is your decision making is something that needs improving. And so learning how to make decisions or being held to a different standard with your decisions is essentially what accountability is. And so that's where, if you want to be more disciplined and making decisions that are more aligned with your goals and where you want to be, getting the accountability to do that will help you with that. So that's really a lot from a community standpoint to unpack there. But the big things here are, if you want to be more consistent, get around people who are consistent. If you want to be motivated, decrease the action threshold. If you want to be more disciplined, get someone to hold you accountable. And then you're going to eventually just be able to hold yourself accountable, because that's your identity. That's just what you do. That's who you are. And being surrounded by other people who hold themselves to a higher standard is going to enable you to do that. And so if you want help or support with that, we got that inside Fit Nerd Academy. That's going to be down below in the description. If you want to keep doing the workouts on the channel, awesome. Keep doing that. There's going to be videos like this one and other ones to give you insight, your choice on which path you want to go. But ultimately, take the action, get it done. Ask yourself, what would a trooper do? They would be disciplined, they would follow the path, and they would not give up. So wrapping this up, CT3939 signing out. I'll catch you guys on the next video. Peace.